How's it going, everybody? For those of you that are new to this channel, I am doing the introduction today. This is Things That Move Us. This is Nico, and today he is joined by me, Geds Smyth, not Jed Smith.
Clearly not your first rodeo.
Right, and if this is your first time to this channel, please give it a subscribe. Subscribe to my boy Nico over here. If you are returning, give this a like, give it a share. Our plan here is really to share our love of cars and the things that move us to people around KW and really anyone else who wants to listen.
Yeah, initially KW, but if we can get across the whole country, that'd be even better.
Should I just do your intro from now on? Is this how
I
you
should
should do
clip
this?
the audio and then just plug it in as an intro after the career.
But put your mouth moving. It'll just be my voice doing it. This is a great idea.
Actually, I don't know if you've looked at the polls or whatnot on the page, but do you know what the intro car is?
No.
Oh,
What is
I
it?
love doing this because I did with Danny. Danny got it after a few tries, but I think my friend Stefan got it like that.
Like the actual audio clip?
Yes.
The screaming Hayabusa?
Not a Hayabusa.
No.
Nope, not a Hayabusa.
Sounds like it's revving at like 14,000 RPMs. Is it a Petronas F1 car?
No, it is not. A Patronus
See, I
F1
figure
car.
with the hat on, you would have been right about that.
Let's just try listening to it really quickly.
Okay. Sounds like a Ferrari.
No, not a Ferrari. It is high revving. I will give you that. I
Okay.
will have to give you that.
Okay, what is it? The suspense is killing me.
It's a Porsche Carrera GT.
Ooh.
The poster car that
It
I don't
is-
have a poster of.
It is nice.
Welcome, Ged.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
I've met Ged here at work.
Yeah. Yeah,
We
we used to
worked
work
together.
together. Yeah.
Yeah, we used to
did.
work together, and then we fell in love
We did. It was very romantic.
professionally.
Yes, there were long walks along the beach. And by the beach, I mean it was more so kind of
A showroom.
down that middle showroom floor where I would wear suits that would match the BMWs.
Right. Now,
Yeah.
wait, was I in Mini when you were in Mini?
No. So you had left Mini.
Literally attached to the
was-
building. So I was in BMW.
You were in BMW.
When I just left Mini.
Who was there? Callum Rowe and Joy Zhu were
Right.
there. I'll never forget because I walked in originally to look at a car for my wife. And I'm not even sure if I'm allowed to tell this story, but I'm going to. And
That's always fun.
Yeah, we wanted to test drive a Countryman because my wife was driving a Ford Edge, and although it's a wonderful vehicle, she hated how big it was. And I'd always been a Mini guy, so she's like, "You already have a Mini." I had my Roadster at that point,
Which you don't have anymore.
which I don't have anymore.
Right.
That's a different story. Don't worry, I didn't crash it or anything. I
know.
still see it all the time in our Mini group. So we had walked in, and my wife wanted to test drive a Countryman. That was the R60 chassis back then. It was 2016. I walked in mid-November, if I had to guess. So I brought in my business card because at the time I was a digital manager for Wayne Pitman Ford. That was the first dealership I had worked at.
Right.
And so I said, hey, because I'd shown up in my demo and I had like Wayne Pitman Ford on the back. So I brought my card. I'm like, look, I'm not here to poach anyone, do anything crazy. We're legitimately here looking at a car.
Right.
So Joy takes my card and she runs away. And I'm like, okay.
Because she's new to the business at this point as well. I think she was always new to the business.
She's still new to the business.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's 40 years old. I'm pretty sure she's still new to the business. So 2 or 3 minutes later, she walks back with this beautiful and short human being who introduced himself as Richard Kovacs, aka Kovac. And the guy was an absolute stud. I mean, I'm definitely not afraid to say it. So we started chatting, kind of shooting the breeze and things like that while Joy was getting the test drive set up. And we got to experience a Mini BMW test drive.
Right.
Now, part of the test drive process, as you'll probably remember, involved really going over how good the braking system was.
Yep.
Now, Joy's a wonderful young woman, but didn't really communicate that was going to happen. So So my wife's sitting in the front seat
And mid-drive.
and I'm sitting in the back seat, and I can hear her saying something. I'm like, I have a funny feeling I know where this is going. And my wife's just kind of casually sitting in the front seat, counts down from 3, and absolutely slams the brakes. Stacy.
Dude, I taught her.
Stacy literally half goes into the front dashboard. I thought she was going to shit herself.
I taught her the test drive and how to do it properly and whatnot. And I guess she missed a few points of telling the customer when we're going to show them how well it.
Stacy was mortified. So we finished the test drive. And we go back to the dealership, and she's basically ready to run out of there. But when we got back there, Richard was still there waiting in Minnie. So we kind of got talking and started chatting, and him and I connected really well, which we might go over later on. Was really unlikely understanding how different of people we were, right? So we started chatting, kind of shooting the breeze, and he came over and he starts asking me these interesting prodding questions, like, what I do at Wayne Pitman, how long I've been a manager for, kind of what my background is. And I'll never forget, because he's like, I have an idea. He's like, don't buy this car. I'm like, what? He's like, quit your job and come run Minnie. I looked at him like, are you high? Like, what are you thinking? What? And my first day of work was December 12th. It was 3.5 weeks later.
Okay, I was just going to say, how much later was that?
Yeah, so that was on a Saturday. I basically told me to email my resume to this person named Margot and this person named Jordan. I think I went in the Monday or Tuesday for my first interview.
Right.
My first interview was with Jordan.
Right.
Super, super cool guy.
Of course. Always working.
Always working.
Never not.
And
working.
I loved how real he was, because I was coming from a Ford dealer that was like your stereotypical old white car dealer. Love Wayne Bricknell to death, but just very different people, right?
Yeah.
And then my second interview was with Margot, and obviously, walking into meeting Margot, not necessarily what you would expect from the other partner, but it was a wonderful relief, because my first thought was like, oh, what a wonderfully different mentality, right? So anyway, as the story goes, it worked out well. And then I started December 12th, and you had just gone over to BMW a short time ago. And the reason why I was telling that story, just to kind of bring it back, was it was not even 3 weeks later. So I don't even think it had hit January yet. And I was in your 135 doing donuts up Shirley. And and I'll never forget it, because the environment I came from was very much full of that stereotypical domestic sales guy. They were very, very business focused, not necessarily a lot of passion in the process of handling a machine like a BMW. It was it was about coming in and moving metal, or whatever it is they call it as a slang, right?
Yeah.
But I'll never forget being in your car like 3 weeks later, because you and I had connected, because I could. There was just that huge passion, right?
Yeah.
And we're in a parking lot doing donuts, kicking snow everywhere, and I'm like, this is not a bad place to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? It's different when you have passion, because yes, there's a sales process to everything. And at the time when I was at Mini, I did not know that there was a sales process. I just tried to sell a car. Like, hey, listen, like, this is a great car. You should buy it.
It's amazing. It's so
Let's
much
be
fun.
friends, and I'll sell you a car. But quickly when I went over to the BMW side, I've learned that there is actually a process to selling a car, and things change for me very quickly, right? So,
for sure.
Yeah, but you know what? It's funny that you mentioned the 1 Series, because I think I mentioned it every single time on the show. I truly miss that car.
You were nuts to get rid of it.
Nah,
Car was so cool, man.
It was, but it was getting to like 6 months just before the warranty ran out, and I need to do brakes. I'm just like, what?
Sound like a car guy.
I need to make part ways. But you know what? What's funny about the test drive? So after BMW, I switched over to Mercedes a few months after, and
didn't you go to like a domestic in there? Didn't you? Weren't you selling RAV4s for about 3 weeks?
No. For a few months, I sold GM products, and I'm like,
that's right.
This is not me. I gotta go elsewhere. And I heard Pfaff was local, and they came to Kitchener, so I started kicking their door down and came in. But when I started talking to all their sales guys and their managers, they say, we love it when customers come from BMW into Benz after a test drive. I'm like,
Really?
what do you mean? He's like, she actually, it was Sarah, the manager there. She says, you guys used to drive so aggressively to the point where customers would just hate it. And then they just go to Benz and buy it because they just like, we don't want this. We don't need a race car. We want a normal driving
want a luxury
car.
vehicle.
Right.
Interesting.
Yeah. So it was interesting whenever I hear like, oh, now that I'm on the other side of the coin, I have customers coming in like, oh, we just experienced it. And I heard it firsthand. They're like, oh yeah, they drive so aggressive and so fast and this and that. Meanwhile, I'm like, that's awesome.
I bet you they didn't show you where the blinkers were.
No.
The direction.
That's actually one of the things that I used to make fun of my customers when they pull into the parking lot. I'm like, guys, this car is perfect for you. Why? You didn't use the blinker.
There's no
at all.
directionals. You are basically born to drive this vehicle.
Yeah. If you ever feel useless in life, just think that there's somebody that installs blinkers on BMWs.
Yeah. Great meme.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was kind of my introductory to BMW and Mini and you.
Now, what do you have right now? Because you had the Roadster, which was a Cooper S or JCW.
It was a Cooper S with JCW packaging, so it had
Right.
the aero kit. So
Right.
from there, my summer car went to a 2013 JCW 3-door, which was named Jarvis, which is on my hoodie, and we went to Mini Invasion with that, and that was amazing. And then after I left Mini in September of 19, September of 19, if I'm not mistaken. I got, because we were always running 3 cars in the household. So we went down to 2 cars, and I got a 2017 3-door Mini, which literally looks exactly the same. It's white silver on red roof mirror cap, and it's a
Cooper S?
No, it's JCW.
JCW, nice.
Full JCW. So my 13 was a JCW, but it was stick. And I love driving standard. I don't necessarily want to do it every day now. If I have a summer car, it will always be stick.
Right.
But I wanted to do something where it was easier for everybody in the household to drive.
Right.
So I got a 2017 JCW. Dining came out with a wicked intake for it, so we ordered that and did a race chip in it.
Minis use Dynan parts?
Yes, sir. Because the F chassis is
When-
literally
since
BMW.
when?
They started really getting back into it kind of early 2019.
That's why, because I fell off the map after I left BMW. So
Yeah, so Dining cuddled with Mini back in the old R53 days, so 02 to 06. And then 7 to 13, they kind of took a hiatus because there were such a mishmash of cars, right? You had Peugeot parts in there, you had Chrysler transmissions in there. Like it literally was a Frankenstein. But when the F chassis got launched, it was top to bottom BMW.
right.
So Dinan in 2017, I think, started toying around with the idea again. And then by late 18 or early 19, it started to launch some product.
That's cool.
So exhausts again, they brought out this beautiful carbon fiber cold air intake, which a few of us picked up.
Right.
And then I added a race chip to it. So it's
Now, for those who don't know, Mini owners are,
crazy,
I want to put it nicely,
passionate,
yeah,
a large community.
yeah, very, very big, very, very, and you know what? Good people, good people.
I think that I think that each car culture has stereotypes.
All the
So
Mini
we
nuts
all
I've met.
know what BMW drivers are like from a stereotypical standpoint.
Yes, which are, you know what, surprisingly now becoming Audi drivers. Audi drivers are now the bad people. I was about to say a few things. I'm like,
yeah. Audi to me was always the sophisticated young professional.
yeah,
BMW did obviously have the D-hole stereotype to it, which is unfair and too bad because the product is phenomenal.
right.
Jeep people love to wave. And the Mini community is just overly friendly.
Subarus as well. Eh?
Subis, yeah. Although I'm pretty sure if you buy a Subaru, you get a massive vape. When you get like a massive, what did Kovacs used to call it? A big unit or a rig?
I have no idea.
Carried around that,
He
carried around that trumpet thing of a vape that he would
trying
use.
to quit smoking.
He's literally probably going to see this and drive to my house and punch me in the face. But yeah, he used to call it a rig or something like that. Like, man, it's not a transport truck. Although it kind of looked like it sometimes.
But well, back then they just came out, so they were pretty hefty and big
Yeah.
and overheat, and I'm pretty sure it's still bad for you. But
yeah, it was funny because he pulled the thing out and I thought he was like summoning the Power Rangers. It was like it was I think it was like this big.
You're not dating yourself?
Yes.
Because people are now confused. Like,
Oh,
wait,
I was-
he's not,
yeah, I
he's
would-
not 12.
I was going to go back even further, but I figure I should try and maintain that youthful look, right? But I don't know where I don't know where
I
we're
think
at that
we touched
point.
on vape. But no, everybody's...
Oh, sorry.
was
In terms of
telling me-
car cultures,
Yes.
yeah. So whereas the mini community are the type of people that, like, you'll see them and they'll want to give you a hug.
Yeah.
Like they're just super overly friendly. So.
Very open, very
Yep.
like, hey, come into my car. Let's
Yeah.
do this. And then there's mini rallies.
Yeah,
That
rallies,
was fun. That
Yeah,
was
so
fun.
we did mini rallies at the dealership. Our last year we had 125 people there. You can find the video on YouTube. It was amazing. Just everyone together, food, prizes.
I remember the first year. The first year was just so bad that it was so good.
Yeah. Yeah,
Because
it grew so quickly, right?
And for those who aren't local, it was Ottawa Street. And for those who aren't local, it's pretty much a very busy main vein of a street and hundreds of minis just holding up traffic, just going through. So many complaints were filed.
Yeah, that
to
was
the
the
store.
poker run, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
We nixed the poker idea because we wanted to make it a lot more about the community than the actual driving itself. We found that people wanted to spend so much time looking at each other's minis. It was easier to do that in a parking lot with music playing, being fully catered, and giving prizing away. So
Right.
we did do drives each time. We hired some pretty cool media crews to capture it. And yeah, it was an absolute blast. And then every month under normal circumstances, we have a West Enders run. So I think there's 600 members in the West Ender community. We have anything from 15 to 35 cars that'll all get together and we'll do a run and have a map. And then we go to a pub or go for breakfast or do something like that. But yeah, it's definitely...
Your wife goes with you as well?
Yes.
She's into it?
She was wonderfully accepting of the whole thing.
Yeah,
I don't
same with
necessarily know if she loved it, but I mean, you got to give credit to the spouses out there that
Put up with our
that's
weird
just it.
obsessions.
Yeah, our weird obsessions. They start to learn what a right seater is, and the roles of a right seater in terms of navigation and unwrapping food and making sure that, as the guy behind the wheel, if you're moving or the person behind the wheel, if you're moving at a good pace, that your focus is on doing that, right? But she was very cool about the whole thing, and we had that kind of cool employee program at the dealership, and she drove Mini kind of most of the time, and was actually nice enough to refer some of her colleagues over to help us out on a business standpoint as well.
That's awesome. Yeah, the mini the car program at work was nice. But the thing is, like, even though I was in Mini, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to get a Beamer.
And I think the Mini guy and the BMW guy are two different people. And
yeah, you know what?
And that's totally okay.
I think I was quirky enough for the Mini.
You're definitely weird enough.
Yeah,
100%.
But
Yeah.
the love was there for the Beamers. But they kind of fell off the map for me after, like, the F30s came out. It was... They don't make them like they used to, but they do. It's just such a weird cocktail right
the new
now.
M3 being all-wheel drive. I don't care what anyone says about the grill. That might be the ultimate daily driver.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what? As long as you could put it into rear-wheel drive, I'm fine with it. But it's hard because it's so hard to find an analog car these days that's just not filled and just riddled with electronics.
Yeah.
Right?
That's fair.
That's that. But yeah. So tell me more.
Tell
me more about your life.
Well, after so now I have left car. I miss it sometimes though.
Yeah.
I miss the people. I miss the culture behind it. So now I spend the majority of my days in the back end of clients' Amazon web spaces.
Nice.
So my background was digital. Before I came to Mini, I was a digital manager with Ford, and my big thing there was kind of engaging people in an online space.
Right.
So, I mean, the world has come to the point where we don't go into a store really anymore. We're obviously entering lockdown in a couple of days again. And again, we're literally not going to be able to go anywhere. So in a sea filled with tiles, pictures, how does someone look at what you have to offer, take a moment to click on it, and then engage with it long enough to become emotionally attached to it in order to make that purchase, right? You rubbing my leg there a little bit?
I think I was
Thank
with
you.
my foot up.
Sounds amazing.
I apologize.
Don't give me half an hour to cut it out. So that's really what I started working in, was creating engaging imagery in the pre-owned world, so people would want to click on it.
And then for pre-owned cars.
Yeah.
Right.
And then once they clicked on it, to write a description that was more than just features, to engage a specific sort of audience. And when I was at Ford, they gave me a lot of creative freedom. Sometimes I'm sure I pushed the boundaries on that a little bit, as I tend to do, for those of you that may know me.
But that's the only way you can get ahead, though.
And that was a lot of fun. And then coming over to Mini, we got to see a pretty cool increase in the pre-owned world as well. Just being able to take what I had done before and really combine it with something that I had been passionate about for many years. I mean, I was, the moment the Italian Job dropped in 2003, I was 23 years old and living in the city and living in a room that was literally no bigger than the room we're in right now, going to school and working. And I remember seeing it being like, that is what I want to be all about. So when I was 23, I remember saying, I want to be able to comfortably afford a Mini and drive it.
Wow. So you established at a younger age then that the Mini was the car for you.
That was my thing. There was something about the agility of it, the versatility of it, the way it was portrayed, the history and the heritage behind Alec Izagones, and that crazy thing with the rally in Monte Carlo, and just. I mean, there was just
now
so
they're
much
doing Dakar rallies like in the Sahara, which is insane, and they're actually killing it too.
Doing really well,
very well.
Yeah. So that was kind of my intro. So having a chance to be a sales manager, help the people around me kind of be successful, and
I kind of did the same thing with the S2 because that was my childhood dream car.
Yeah,
and I first saw it on the road, and my first thought was, "Is that a Ferrari?" Because it was red. And I'm like, is that a Ferrari? Or, no, it's not a Lamborghini. It could be a Ferrari, though. And I'm looking at this thing from the front, and as it passes by, it pulls over. And I think this was on King, like Uptown Waterloo. And when it pulled over, I kind of had to go up to it, and at the time, you're a kid. You don't really, you're looking for things. And the first thing I look at, I'm like, it's a Honda? I'm like, really? And then I look at it, and I'm like, what is that? And the guy says, oh, it's a S2000, and he was happy to kind of show me the car and whatnot.
Yep.
And then as years go by, now I own one, and I actually had that same interaction with someone else when I was at a gas station. They said, "What is that? Is that a Ferrari?" And I'm like, "Okay, so I'm not crazy.
I'm not going nuts."
But now being, a part of the initiated, I can just spot a car just by listening to what it is.
Oh, for sure.
So
what year is your S2K again?
Oh wait.
I
think they made like 133 examples of yellow in North America for that color. So
when I was at Mini, there was a Honda pre-owned vehicle, it's a Civic or something like that, and one of the gentlemen who's one of the sales managers at Kitchener Honda ended up being the person that purchased it from us from like a wholesale perspective. We were moving it over to that dealer.
Right.
And he came over and I got chatting with him, and he was a very passionate car guy as well. And typically you find your passionate car people in the Audi world, the Mercedes world, BMW, Mini, all of those brands. It was very interesting to meet someone that was very passionate in the Honda world. And he was saying that he had one of the 02s or 03s. It was the only year that redlined at 8,000 RPMs. And he actually raced it. He actually kind of casually races it in amateur circuits.
Right.
But apparently one of those years it had an 8,000 RPM rev line.
So the way, to my knowledge, AP1 was year 2000 till 2003, which redlined at 9,000.
Oh, maybe that was it. Sorry.
Right. So those select years. But after that, I believe it's 8,400.
Got it. Sorry. Yeah.
So 9,000. Okay. Yeah. They're very, very good. They're technically called the Widowmakers just because they don't have ABS. They just scream.
Yeah. They're a raw driving experience.
In the rain, they're terrifying. And I didn't want to take mine out in the rain, but I was caught in the rain after soccer practice.
Don't you mean football?
Yeah, football. Well,
okay, speak properly.
I know. For those who I don't want to get into that. Footy. Let's just call it footy.
Proper footy.
Footy. But yeah, I was on my way back and then I caught rain, and this tiniest little nudge in the steering wheel just kicks it out.
Yeah. Yeah, there's such a beautifully cool video. Such a beautifully cool vehicle, I should say. Yeah.
Now, a question for you.
Yep.
Now that you are out of automotive, which is very surprising because once you're in, you're in. You don't leave. But
it is intoxicating. We'll get into that in a moment. Yeah,
you never know. You might come back.
Maybe.
But, takeaways from automotive. If you had to think about it, I know I'm putting you on the spot here.
No,
and I apologize, but
that's okay.
I'm always curious to see what people have, what people's thought process is when it comes to, automotive and whatnot, because everybody out there that isn't in the automotive industry, they hate dealerships, they hate sales guys, they hate the sales managers, and they hate F&I and service.
Yeah,
right?
It's fair. I actually married a woman who can't stand car dealerships, which is ironic in itself.
That's
my lovely wife cannot stand car dealerships, cannot stand car people. Irony.
Yeah.
So takeaways from the car world. I think my first big takeaway is that there are two different types of people that work in the car world from a client-facing standpoint. So I guess my examples are going to be very sales-focused.
Which is fine, right?
There are people that do it every day to come in and earn a living, and that there are people that are so enthralled and passionate about the product, it just gives them an excuse to be around the actual vehicles themselves.
Ding.
So not to stereotype, but you'll find a lot of example one, from my experience for the most part, and again, I don't mean to offend anybody by any means. I know there's examples of this everywhere. But the majority of people that I worked with before I entered the mini BMW world were very much that career-long professional salesperson.
Right.
It was strictly a process. They were checking boxes. They earned a living. They earned a good living. They were willing to sacrifice the weekends in order to provide properly for their family. And that is not a bad thing in the slightest.
Right.
And then there are people that might not be as refined from a sales process perspective at the beginning, but they're so passionate and enthralled about the culture behind the brand and the product that they will do anything to be assimilated with it. And I think that as we move into a world where you're going to have two extremes, so you're going to have the ability, and you probably do now in Canada, you definitely do in the US, to buy your car online. You're going to see this massive split. You're going to see the people that are going to want to click the buttons to purchase their Ford Edge or Ford Escape.
They're doing it with Tesla right now.
Yeah. But you're also going to have that very dedicated, passionate group of people that want to spend time around someone who's passionate about the product. So someone like yourself, for example, I don't mean to call you out by any means, but I can't imagine you not working at a Mercedes or
something that I enjoy, like a product that I enjoy.
Something that you're passionate about. I don't think, and I'm calling you out because I'm the same way.
No, that's fine.
I don't do well with complacency.
Yeah.
Like to me, if I'm not emotionally charged about a situation that I'm in, I really don't want to be a part of it.
And see, that's where, when you touch on process and passion, what I've learned is obviously process is going to sell me more cars, but wasn't necessarily happier.
Meh.
I
don't know if I necessarily agree with that,
but
I think I think that when it comes to something that is greater than $25,000, consumers, clients, people are more educated than we are ever going to be.
Thanks, Internet.
They've watched every YouTube review.
Right.
They've seen every OEM recall, and to this day, I'm blown away by the people in our forums that are like, oh, hey, the class action suit on water pumps for the R53 from 03 to 06 was finally settled, and Mini Canada is looking at implementing it in February 2021.
And then you as a sales guy, what?
Cool. And that's a real example, by the way.
Yeah.
But I think that there's still going to be this draw of people that are grossly passionate that want to spend time around people that are passionate.
Right. But what I'm saying is and that's where I kind of came to a crossroads at BMW, was I found that my passion was selling. It was the passion for me that was selling cars. Yep. Not process.
Yep.
But then when I learned about process, I tried to blend the two together.
And that's tough.
And that's,
it's amazing. If you
blending wine and water.
Yeah.
Or wine and beer.
Yeah.
It's very, very different.
Yeah.
Acquired taste for both.
Yeah. And so going back, my big takeaway was I would rather surround myself with good people that were passionate than great salespeople.
Like Porsche. Porsche guys, I think, are now the most, if you're looking at an industry of passion, if you're to sell a product, I don't think that you can get more passionate than Porsche.
I always said if I'd go back, it would be to Porsche because it's such a culturally driven brand.
There's
so much passion behind it, right? So even like you remember when I was there, you know, the guys that I would bring in from a sales perspective, they weren't necessarily quote unquote great salespeople. I mean, I hired Matt Belcastro, who I'd worked with at Ford, and he was an established sales guy, and I knew that there'd be no hand-holding needed, even if we were slightly different people.
He loves his hand.
He was
like physically.
He likes his bum held a little bit
actually.
too. Yeah.
Hey, shout out to
but Castro, whatever
that's the way
they
he
used to do. Yeah,
that's his little thing.
But everybody else was really about finding good people that were excited to be part of that brand. I mean, you can teach someone process. You can teach them loose scripting in order to guide someone down a path, but you can't teach the excitement of being in an environment. It's either there or it's not.
You can teach skill, but you can't teach attitude.
You got it, man.
I always say that.
Passion. You cannot teach passion.
No.
You can always tell if someone's getting fired up about something and someone that is there because they need to be there. So my big takeaway is surround yourself with great people that are passionate to be where they are in that moment.
I agree.
Couldn't agree more. That was my first big takeaway, and I will take that away literally forever.
Yeah.
The second big takeaway I learned from Car is really to reaffirm the phrase that it is normally much better to ask for forgiveness than it is to ask for permission. So anybody who I overstepped that line with at the Mini BMW World, not to call it any names, but I officially asked for forgiveness. So those were probably my two biggest ones. My third big takeaway from the car world is even when you leave it, you never leave it. Even since I've been off, I've been able to help kind of broker deals between people in our community and, you know, associated dealerships we had relationships with. And I think the reason why we never really leave it is because, you know, you spend more time with those people at a dealership than you really do at home, and that's an entirely different conversation.
Yeah, you create relationships.
You know, you and I haven't seen each other in 15 to 16 months, but we still communicate over text. When you said you were doing this, I remember saying, "Hey, man, I'm in if you ever want to chat," and you were like, "Really? I'd love that." You know, that's really what the car world brought for me, was this network of people that I genuinely want to spend time with, even after I'm no longer in that industry.
Yeah.
So those are kind of my three.
It's true ones. Because I did the same when at the time where I was at BMW before Mercedes. I heard that this store at Mercedes would rent out the hangar up in Breslau Airport, and then they'd have. No, you're good. You can play with it. Just.
Oh my God.
They'd rent the hangar out in Breslau Airport. They'd bring AMGs and just take their. I mean, I don't want to separate VIP customers from just the one-time buying customers, but they're retention customers, they're VIPs,
they're relationships,
right? And they take them all out and they just go racing down the quarter mile, hitting 200 kilometers an hour, and I'm like, that's so cool. So,
I had a friend that went to an unnamed friend who was a sales manager in the Mini World, who actually went to Porsche, and he went to FAF Porsche.
Right.
Hope I'm not getting into trouble for oversharing here. And he said it was the craziest thing because I came from my first dealership. You know, the idea of having a demo and driving cars was like this sacred thing. You almost felt like you had to go through battle to earn the privilege to do. It was very much a control piece. And then when I got to BMW Mini, it seemed to lighten up a little bit, where they were a little bit more open about you taking cars home, whether it was the salespeople, sales managers, getting familiar with the product. But you really only got to experience that when you were away at an actual training.
Right.
So this friend of mine, this unnamed friend of mine, goes to Porsche. And he calls me one night. He's like, "Ged, he's like, I feel like I'm in euphoria." I'm like, "What are you talking about, man?" He's like, "I've been at Porsche for 3 days. They told me not to take my car home for the next 3 to 4 days, and they put me in a Panamera GTS." I'm like, "I'm sorry, what?" He's like, "I'm in this 4,000-pound tank that goes 10 million miles an hour." He's like, "I'm so afraid to do anything in this thing. I'm not even sure where to start." And I was like, "You got to be kidding me." So he drove that thing for 3-4 days, took it back. He went to go leave the next time. He's like, no, your car's staying here. Here's the keys to a Macan. And he literally spent 3 to 4 weeks, and that culture you were talking before about Porsche, right?
Right.
They breed excitement. And it's very interesting that as the price tag of these products seem to go up, you would think that the level of control and concern would also go up. But it's this weird paradox where
it doesn't.
It doesn't.
No.
It literally goes the other way, because it seems like certain companies, certain brands have really kind of connected those dots. Like
experience. It's now.
Yep.
It's now all about the experience.
I remember getting glared at by an unnamed person when
you have a lot of
a lot of unnamed.
I love it. I love it.
I remember getting glared at by an unnamed person who looked mortified when I looked at them and said, you know, selling a vehicle is nothing more than the transfer of passion. And I remember being literally chastised for this. But I firmly believe it. The selling of product in general, but specifically in a car, anything you can touch and feel and be very intimate with, is merely the transfer of passion. That's all it is. It's the things that move us.
There you go. Literally why I came up with this.
Yeah. And that's it. And my hope is that people will listen and watch this and be like, like these are just passionate people the same way we are, right?
Yeah,
I mean, there's so much transparency in the car world. There's no hidden secrets. People know what people make on cars. Like they know more about the business than we do because everything's on the internet.
Well, it's funny you say that, because to connect what you said back to what I was saying was initially my wife, now at that time my girlfriend, she didn't get the whole car obsession, right? And when I'm seeing these guys at Mercedes doing these private events, I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to do something on my own dollar. And I took the customers and friends who wanted to come. Yep. And I took them all down to St. Thomas drag strip. And I took my wife with me, girlfriend at the time again. And
sweet date idea. Hey, want to go drive cars?
Hey, you want to go fast?
You want to go...
Ricky
hey,
Bobby.
I like to go fast.
So we went down and we just made a day out of it. And we taught people how to actually do a proper, drag race from a dig and blah, 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 blah. Yep. And that was the first time she was ever in a race kind of thing. Yeah. I mean, everybody was in a, 1.8 4-cylinder car out of green light who wants to floor it against another. It's just, whatever.
Never happens.
Let's talk about like when you actually hit 200 kilometers an hour. Then I took her out to, with friends and clients. I took her out to Cayuga. Yep. Then Moss Sport. And I started doing it as a regular thing to the point where now you're developing these relationships with these people. And now you become that person that they will go to always, no matter where you are, no matter what you do. Nico, I need you to hook me up with a Porsche. Nico, I need you to hook me up with a Ford. Doesn't matter what it is. If it's $10,000 or $100,000, you're their guy now.
You become a trusted advisor.
Right.
Yep.
And again, and now you're not just a sales guy. You're not just a typical, well, you're interested in this car. Follow me.
And if you act now, there is a bonus credit of blankety blanks.
Yeah.
And I think that's really going to be the eye-opening thing. Here's my prediction for the next 5 years, is the world is going to slowly start to understand that the majority of us, and I'll say us because you're right, you never really leave. It's not about being a sales guy. We're literally just passionate about a certain industry. And again, our goal is really just to transfer that passion to someone else, to help even just for a moment, to give someone a glimpse as to how it feels to operate this incredible machine and experience that through our eyes.
And at the same time, make life easier for them, because let's be honest, call it the 80%. I don't know. I'm just spitballing random numbers, but call it 80%. I would say that people don't like buying cars. They don't like shopping.
They don't.
Right? It's not, it's kind of like when, I don't know about you, but it's kind of like when my wife asked me to go to the mall and shop with her, grocery shop or mall. I'll literally try and weasel myself out of it. Anything. I will do housework to not do that. I just don't like it. And that's the same.
And it's almost the opposite, because in that situation, there's very little intimate human interaction. And yet, like my wife hates going to a car dealership because there's too much physical, intimate interaction between her and another human being, right?
Dude, I have simplified shopping for myself. I know what I want and I'll just buy it.
Yeah.
Like literally when I bought my Subaru, I went into the store and bought it.
Yeah.
And the guy was so confused. Like, you actually know what you want? You know the exact options? You know your exact payment? I'm like, yes, I have this, I have the system. I calculate my own payment, down payment, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Let's just do it. In and out half an hour.
Yep.
Right? But not everybody knows what they want. And that's the same thing for shopping at Best Buy for headphones. I want these headphones. You don't want to try anything else? No. Just give me these headphones. Okay.
Yep.
Jeans. I want to just buy this. You're sure that's all you want? Yep. That's all I want.
Just keep it as simple as possible. Yep. But that's and that's really what it's like when you have one of these people in your network that are looking for something. I've found that when I've, been able to create a handshake between the dealer at whatever brand it was, literally 2 weeks ago, it was at Mercedes in Niagara. Big shout out to Sean Boss, one of our legends from the mini world, who's now with Mercedes. I had a contact reach out to me saying, I was down at Performance Mercedes. So getting on the phone with him, catching up, because we're all still friends, and it's so much easier when the person who needs to spend the money can see that other human being as just a human being who's just there to help, who's passionate about a specific product and trying to transfer that passion onto them, right?
Right.
Yep.
No, I agree. Do you miss it?
I miss the people so much. I miss the vehicles like crazy. As much as I love my Mini, I look at the stuff they're doing with the new John Cooper Works stuff. The GP3 I have not had a chance to drive. The electric Mini I've goofed around in a little bit because.
Have you driven a Porsche yet?
I have not driven a Porsche yet.
Do me a favor.
I will be visiting a friend of mine next week. He is now with another Porsche dealer, and he's asked me to come down and visit him. I've known this guy since he was 14, 15 years old. He was at Pfaff Audi as a pre-owned manager for a while, and is now with Porsche. So he is actually from the Guelph area, and he's probably actually going to be at my place this afternoon. And then, I'll go down and visit him next week. And
do me a favor, though. Don't drive one.
Yeah, I'm a little concerned about the concept of driving one because I always joke that when many people grow up and make more money, they buy Porsche.
That was actually one of my selling tactics. With customers coming into BMW, Benz, or even when I was selling Porsches and McLarens. They're like, have you driven one? No, never driven one. I'm actually excited.
Don't do it.
Don't drive one. Yeah. Why? You'll want one.
Yeah. Like I said, and there's probably 4 or 5 people in our Mini community that as they've grown up and become successful, they all migrate to one brand, and it's always Porsche because they're works of art, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Especially, I'm stuck in the old, non-electrical days. Don't get me wrong.
The clutch was so heavy that you needed to go for acupuncture when you were done shifting gears.
Give me a clutch.
Oh, sorry. I take that back. I have driven an 02 911. In stick, one of our wholesalers.
Ooh, air-cooled 993.
What was his name? Haji?
Yes.
Haji. So Haji had... So
Mike.
Yeah. So Haji had a black 911. And
yes, he did.
Nash had told him that I'd never driven a 911 before. So he's like, before you drive the new ones, he's like, drive mine. It was an 02 or an 03.
So this was probably, 5 years ago?
No, this was summer of 2019.
Oh, wow. So he had a black 993 last year.
Yeah, he kept it maybe it was summer of 18. Anyway, it was the summer of one of the last two.
Right.
And he's like, I'll grab coffee. He's like, don't come back before 20 minutes from now. I'm like, yeah, all right. So I jumped out. What a very cool experience. But it was literally the heaviest clutch I've ever felt in my entire life. Like it was uncomfortably heavy.
You know what's it's interesting because I actually drove my friend's M3. So it's also a stick. It's a newer body style.
Yep.
And it was weird because he says that the WRX is inspired by the way the M3 looks. And I'm like, dude, you're high. There's no way. Honestly, and his is white, mine is white. I parked them side by side and I'm looking at them and I'm like, this is weird, but I'm seeing similarities, like the lines of the car and whatnot.
Yeah.
Not the interior, nothing about the drive. I'm just talking about the way it looks. Now, I kind of missed it, so I said just for fun, hey, do you want to trade M3s for the weekend? Ha 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 ha. He's like, yeah, sure. Throws me the keys. I throw him my keys.
Yep.
He takes my WRX. I take his M3. That M3, the clutch, when I put it down, it was so... And I didn't notice it because I'm used to my own clutch.
Is your clutch light? Is the WRX clutch light or heavy?
So it was sloshy for the M3, but I didn't notice it because I'm used to what I'm driving here.
Yeah.
Right. So it's only when I got back the WRX, I put my clutch in, and I was like, holy crap, this thing's heavy.
Yeah.
Like, it's insane.
And that's the thing. I'm not a huge fan of the heavy clutch. Even Mini's clutches got really heavy between 16, 17, 18. And then in 19, they started to lighten them up a little bit. I'll never forget driving the first Cooper S we got in that was in 19 because they had done some, it was an LCI. So they had done some kind of minor changes like life cycle insurgents or whatever they're called.
Right.
And I was like, oh, finally. I don't need acupuncture after I drive this thing.
The heaviest clutch I've ever felt, I guess is
Yeah.
the proper way to say it, is a Dodge Viper ACR.
Really?
The thing, like, when you push it in, it would probably
Like
shove your
twisting.
knee into your mouth. Like,
Really?
it's that aggressive. Oh,
For me, it was that 02 911. That thing was heavy.
Oh yeah. Now,
Heavy.
did you ever track your Mini or any of your Minis?
I have not. So I had my 13,
Uh-huh.
who I called Jarvis.
Right.
I had it on a track, but that was during mini invasions. So there was 300 cars, 600 people in Prince Edward County, and we went to Shannonville, which is the track up there. But and it was raining. So I mean, we followed the pace car around.
But you never.
But I've never
Wide open throttle,
I've never
like-
full out tracked it.
Right.
And I've got it, and I had that Mini to a point where it was totally trackable. I had GP rims on it. I had it lowered. I had a race chip in it. It was quick. It was light, and it was low. This one I think I would like to, although I haven't lowered it because I drive it all year round. It's running upwards of around that 300 mark now, and in my little Mini, about 310 pounds of torque. I would like to take it out.
Now,
If only I knew somebody that did regular track days who might invite me out at some point.
you know what? I didn't go this year. Wait, did I go this year? Yes, I did.
You're lying.
I did go this year.
I wouldn't mind driving your S2K at some point. How do you feel about letting other people drive your S2K? No bueno?
No bueno.
Really?
Yeah, I don't let anybody. The only person I've let drive my my car was my dad. So
Yeah, he gets a full exemption, though. It's different.
But the thing is, it was for a reason, because growing up, my dad saw that I had an addictive personality, B, hyperactivity, and C, my undying love for cars. So put those three together, you're wrapping yourself around a pole. So
Yeah, fair.
he wanted me to get away from sports cars, and
Yep.
I didn't. And when I got this thing, he's just like, this is such a bad idea, this and that, da 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 da. And I said, you know what? I'm going to drive my car back home, and I'm going to let you drive it. Thing is, he doesn't know that you have to wind it up to really experience the full effect.
VTEC.
So
Yeah.
I gave him the keys, and by the time he came back, he's like, why did you buy this? It's so slow. I'm like, your CRV is probably just as fast in the lower RPM range,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But
I have a question for you.
shoot.
So you theoretically meet someone who's 20 years old. Obviously, we have not rehearsed this, and I obviously know my answer already.
Oh, shit.
What is the one piece of advice you would give to the 21-year-old you when it came to the love of cars and things they should do? And I'll give you mine if you want, just to give you a moment to kind of.
What do you mean? No. Like, elaborate on it. I'll answer first. I'm.
So what's the one piece of advice you would give a car enthusiast at the age of 21?
like today or when I was
to-
21?
Either one. Today.
Honestly, it's not that it's a hard question. For me, it would be, it's a good habit to be in. It's a bad, how do I
It's
say
a
it?
great bad habit to have.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, because you can have so much work. I
It's
always
bad.
say
It's still
have
cheaper
your
than
kids,
doing blow.
have your kids addicted and spend their money on cars, so they don't spend their money on other bad things,
like
I guess.
women.
No, not that. But no, seriously, because when you're growing up, you get exposed to so much bad shit.
Yep.
Right? You get exposed to drugs. You get exposed to going out and clubbing, cigarettes, drinking.
Yep.
There's so many vices that
Yep.
you can have. For me, I mean, I've had a mix of vices growing up. And it was honestly, comic books, which I still love and adore because it's artwork. I love art.
Yep.
From back in the day. Watches and cars. And that's what I'm doing today, is just literally obsessing over watches and cars. Probably the most expensive hobbies you can get into, or one of the more expensive ones, because racing is just, it will bleed you dry if you don't do it right.
Yeah,
so my advice to the 21-year-old kid, if you love cars, don't rice it out.
Fair.
Make it your own.
Yeah, fair.
But if you're going to drop $5,000 on a 328, just get a 335.
Yeah, fair.
Or just go a little old school, right?
I feel like my advice is based on my age. So if I were speaking to a 21-year-old me or a 21-year-old kid, the first thing I would tell them is...
Physical age or mental age?
Well, I mean, we're still all 18, let's be honest. But the first thing, the first thing I would tell them is to enroll themselves in a driving school to understand how to control the car properly.
Yes.
So I know Pinnacle.
Okay, that's what you meant.
Yeah, I know Pinnacle. So Colin Casey runs Pinnacle Driving, who's an incredible instructor. I did the BMW Performance Driving School probably about 10 years ago now. And I remember leaving that day going, how have I not died behind the road? They went over everything from like 90% of the population, 95% of the population
doesn't
out
know how to
there
drive.
sits in the incorrect spot.
And
they don't sit properly in a car.
And mirrors as well.
Mirrors.
The positions of mirrors, that is so big.
Seating position. They took us through everything from how to understand what understeer is, oversteer is, ABS. Everyone has ABS.
But if you're a broke child, because you can't go to BMW driving school without dropping what, $2,000?
It was only $500.
Yeah, that's still not bad.
But
Canadian, 500 Canadian, which for American is $150.
It's about $13. But that would truly be my piece of advice. I mean, every car is ABS. No one knows what it does until you're about to hit something.
Yeah, no. If that's the case, then yeah, I definitely
that
agree
would be
that.
that would be my one
and
piece
honestly,
of advice.
Find a very and this is hard.
And spend money on brakes. Spend all of your money on brakes.
Not all. I haven't done a single brake job in my life.
Brakes are key, man.
Well, it's because I don't keep them long enough, and I treat the car.
I get rid of my. Oh my God! I'll never. Speaking of keeping my car, I'll never forget the first time I went to get my car serviced after I left the car world. Holy shit!
Sir, this is where we put your hands, and now bend over.
Well, that's just it, right? I mean, I had this wonderful privilege of having a demo, and even when I had my summer car. I got great shop rates and things like that. I'll never forget my first shop bill. And I was like, oh, yeah.
I'm not going on vacation this year. Crap. But you know what?
I was going to get laser eye surgery, but instead I'm going to get a brake job and an oil change.
I would honestly tell kids these days also to find an empty parking lot where it's very, very secluded.
Learn how to screw up.
With nothing around. And I'm talking like no poles.
Yep.
I'm not going to say where I go because that'll just that might get around.
I mean, all 4 people that watch this might end.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I would. I definitely.
Yeah,
go there and try things, mess up, screw up, because I actually grew up. So when it comes to going sideways in the snow, I am fully self-taught because I had 2 construction cones that I borrowed.
Yeah,
which I still need to return. And I would say, like, okay, let's put them side by side or like apart, maybe 2 car lengths, and let's go through it sideways, see how much control I can get. And then I just kept on getting them closer and closer and closer, hit it a few times. And that's the thing, you'll learn. And that way, just in case something goes down on the streets, I don't have anxiety about gearing down, clutch kicking, and just up, right? You learn so much. Yeah,
the only way to be comfortable in those situations is to have put yourself in those situations before in a controlled environment.
And now I do that with every car I drive. Like, sorry, not every car I drive, but every car I own, I will try and push it within its out of its limits, but in a controlled space.
Yeah, I mean, it takes time for you to learn your vehicle,
and that's where I learned. And again, opinions are subjective. What I like versus when it comes to X-Drive. Audi's Quattro system, Subaru's all-wheel drive, who understeers, who oversteers, who has a perfect weight distribution, blah, 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 blah.
Yep.
So that's my little thing. Now that you said that, I'm like, okay, I have to touch on find an empty parking lot because I do agree with that.
That's great advice, though, and I love your first one, that you're right. There's so many things that we can get mixed up on. So you talk about passions. So my big passions are car, Mini, because I can't afford a Porsche. The second one is golf. I'm a massive golf guy.
Yes, you are.
Yeah,
you are.
And being out of car has been great for my golf game. Having weekends, having evenings, I've played more golf. Sorry, guys, I missed you. Don't get me wrong. However, oh man, is it nice to be able to play some more golf.
I haven't had a Saturday off in, I don't know, since I was a fetus. Seriously.
I remember my first Saturday off. So I left I left at the very end of August of 2019. And I remember my first Saturday off in June. And I don't know why it took me till June. Maybe it was because it was golf season. I remember waking up and just being like, man, have I missed this. Yeah, and my third one is home theater. So here's my 10-second plug. So I have a YouTube channel under my own name, Get Our Smyth, which is called Fabulous Flicks. So I do a lot of like movie reviews, and I'm starting to get into some product stuff. So I did an unboxing last week from a company called Emotiva, which does not sell to retailers. So it was a massive, massive risk on my behalf.
Oh.
And so I'll be shooting this afternoon, actually. I'll be going home to shoot my initial product review. Cool. And as a quick teaser, they're phenomenal.
Yeah.
Way above expectations. It's borderline an insult how inexpensive these things are.
Wow.
For what you get.
Wow.
So that's kind of what I like to do, kind of when I'm not kind of doing my normal work thing. I love being able to create some content. I mean, we're all in lockdown right now. Yeah. So, I'm old. I'm 40, for those of you that couldn't figure it out. And there were some amazing movies made between 1980 and 2000 that now that, people are my age and they have kids that are 5, 10, 15 years old, life gets busy and we forget these gems. So my hope is to have some fun with some reviews. They're 5, 7, 8 minutes, and really just to give you that moment of, I remember that.
And so you can see
have my kids watch this.
Yeah. So you can see what we grew up with.
Yeah, that's it. And
it's hard.
And if you think about it, so you were born in what year?
In the early 90s. I'm
early 90s.
I'm a 91.
So you were 9 when the Furious movies launched.
Yes.
But it'd be interesting, when your kids are 10 years old to break out that 1999 or 2000 Fast and the Furious, Brian O'Connor, Vin Diesel.
It's such a stereotype, but honestly, that pretty much kickstarted.
Of course,
like it was
kickstarted all of us.
Oh, that Gone in 60 Seconds. Yep. Le Mans.
Yep.
Like it's
Yeah. For me, it was Fast and the Furious, and then it was the Italian Job to focus in on the mini world. But as much as people pan the Furious movies, and let's be honest, they've gotten pretty cheesy, but we all love them. They literally started a generation of car enthusiasts, people that weren't afraid to do their own work. They weren't afraid to pop open a hood. They weren't afraid to experiment with different brakes and rotors and turbo systems and things like that no one had really shone that light.
And now have the focus on a handful of cars, have the spotlight on a handful of cars like the Supra, which Skyline, if it wasn't for that movie,
Skyline GTR,
yeah, the R34,
the R34.
If it wasn't for those movies, would those cars be fetching ridiculous numbers? Like, for example, I know of a local gentleman who has an R34. He got offered $150K.
Of course.
Yeah. $150K for his R34, and
I saw a 96 Supra for $85,000.
He declined.
Yeah.
Oh, 96 Supra for
85,000 in Guelph.
That's normal.
Yeah.
Surprisingly. But if you have like a left-hand drive 2JZ fully stock, you're literally looking at a pot of gold. But the thing is, to the untrained eye, it's like, it's a Toyota.
Yeah.
But that's what I like about this, because it flies under the radar.
Yeah.
People see the Honda badge, it's like, whatever.
And it's funny you say that, because everyone has their preference, right? Like, I'm a Mini guy, I love Porsche. I'm
a Japanese and German.
You're a Japanese and German guy, but yet there are 3 or 4 cars that if we had the space in our garage and had the opportunity, we would all buy.
Yeah.
So your R34 Skyline, your last generation of the RX-7, your last generation of the Supra, like those are cars because of what we grew up in that. Like, there isn't a day where I won't see something that's R34 base or old Super base, and you just stop what you're doing to appreciate the work of art that it is. And you're right. Like, this movie, this franchise really brought that to life. And I hope that as we get older and our kids get older, or your kids get older, that we don't forget to make sure that we infuse them with that passion as well, right?
And that's a part of why I'm doing this as well, so I can look back and be like, wow, Dad had this?
That's because you're going to get old and have no memory.
Yeah.
Believe me, I'm getting there.
I did that.
When I was a kid.
Good times.
Used to find a parking lot. Not with your mother.
Yeah. Oh. What is, let me ask you this.
Sure.
What is, in the last week?
Yep.
Week and a half, maybe. Was there something that really caught your eye on the road? I want to start doing this with every guest just to kind of gauge a sense of what people are after. I'm pretty sure by the end of the show now, people know exactly what you like, but I figured I'd ask. Was there anything that you saw that was relatively interesting?
Well, I don't really go very far anymore.
Hmm.
So it's hard for me to say. My neighbor has a new Supra.
Okay.
Across the street from me. He's a business manager at Guelph Toyota. And
Cool.
he has a new Supra, which is a stunning vehicle.
Great car, great engine.
Yeah. I haven't seen it the last week, but obviously I'm very enthralled by the Mini GP3, which has come out.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy, 302 horsepower. I mean, they make
Wing,
it every 7
that
years.
wing on it
wing is
is
nuts. The carbon
sick.
fiber scuttles, beautiful machine.
Mm.
But yeah, because I'm not really going out much, a lot of my car love and memory has to do with stuff that you see on the screen at this point, which is kind of too bad.
Yeah.
Because again, driving is something that we can still do. And as we sit here and talk, I realize that I really haven't taken enough time, even during this pandemic, just to go for drives. What about you? What's jumped out at you the last week?
I said this to my friend last night, and I already forgot the name of it. Damn it. It's a Toyota, but I've never seen it in my life.
Okay. On this topic, while you look this up, though, the biggest car that's jumped out at me recently was actually from a movie, being a big movie buff. Bad Boys 3 was released, and it's IMAX Enhanced, which is a big conglomerate between Sony and the company IMAX.
Mm-hmm.
And Will Smith is in a new 992. That thing is a literal work of art.
The 992?
Literal work of art. The 911 992, that thing is stunning.
The new GT3.
No, just in general.
Have you seen the GT3? 992?
Yes. Yeah. But just the 911 in general, what they've done with the interior, I mean, man.
I'm a 3-pedal handbrake kind of guy. And for me, it's hard to find that in today's day and age. And I find that newer Porsches have gone a little, dare I say, electronic. From what I'm reading, I haven't experienced one yet, and I want to really badly. I want to drive a 992, like a C2S. Because in my opinion, if you're going to buy any Porsche, it has to be a C2S. That's
Fair.
at least like, it's the sweet spot. GT3, you're trying to kill yourself and someone. Just the regular, 911 it's still nice, but.
I realize I have driven a GT3. I'm so sorry. I just remembered we did a GTA Exotics run a couple years ago.
Oh, you
Drove a
did?
14 or 15, their red GT3. It was Stacy's favorite car. The
How-
thing was disgusting.
Dude, how old are you? When I ask someone, have you driven a Porsche? They're like,
Yeah.
yes, I have.
I'm literally
Dude,
that
it was
old.
amazing.
Well, please understand that day I also drove a 458. I drove a Huracan. So I drove a lot of nice cars that day.
Mm.
But there is something special about a GT3, man. There really is.
This is the cool car that I saw. It is called the Toyota Serra. I saw it in a parking lot.
Oh my God, look at that
The
thing.
guy opened it with, it was the easiest way I describe it to viewers is it opens as if it's like an SLS, Mercedes-Benz SLS AMG.
Yeah.
But more, when it opens the gull wing, it opens them forwards. And it's just a regular looking Toyota. But when I was seeing it, I saw it first with the doors closed. And I'm like, that's a lot of windows. That's a lot of windows. It's a right-hand drive. I'm like, what the heck is this? It was an older gentleman that had it. And he opens he opens the, call it gull wing, call it scissor, call it Lambo.
It looks very McLaren-like, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
and
does.
I'm like, oh my God, that's so cool.
Yeah.
And it was in Waterloo.
Okay, so what are the top 2 fun cars you've owned, and they can't be anything you drive now? I'll go first.
135 and RSX because I only had 5 cars in my ownership experience. So I'm not that exciting.
So it's an age thing. My 2 favorite, I had an 01 Integra GS.
That is
Loved that
so
car.
fun.
So silver on black leather, and I had a Del Sol. So I grew up JDM, even though I'm
Very
now
cool.
a German guy. I had a Del Sol converted with a B16 engine in it and S2K seats.
Interesting.
Thing was just an absolute douche mobile.
I didn't know
I
that.
loved it.
Well, you do know what replaced the DC4 Integra? The RSX.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. I was an RSX Type S fan, but please understand that was early 2000s. I was all Mini at that point.
Yeah,
that was
fine.
really the changing the guard for me.
I would have
right?
loved to have a Type S, but at the time I only could afford the regular premium.
150 horsepower.
155, I think, or
Yep.
something along those lines. But
Yep.
that was a great car. I think that moving forward, and correct me if I'm wrong, but moving forward, that people are going to realize that the digital age is not as good as it is cracked up to be. And where I'm going with this is clusters. When you're looking at clusters today, it's all digital. When the car is turned off, there's nothing really to see.
Yeah.
Because remember when you were a kid and then you peek into the car and you would judge how fast the car can
The
go
tachometer and then the
just
speedometer.
by reading. It's like,
Oh, it goes to 240.
330?
Oh my God.
Fastest car in the world.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, and then when you see a cluster with, a white background, and then you see like an S2000 cluster, which is fully LED, so retro, very video game-ish.
Yeah.
Only to stare at a blank screen today, it's different. And that's
For sure it
that's
is.
where I'm trying to hold on to the older things. So
It's such a divide though, right? Because
Big.
the digital age offers your connectivity, which
right.
anybody under the age of 30 right now is dying to get a piece of.
And that's the thing. Anybody under 30 is like, oh, you can, when you put it in sport mode, it goes from blue to red. And then it just looks so cool.
It's
this
faster
and that.
because it's red.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just a misconception of just like, it changes your whole, and it goes back to the thing, experience. It gives you a different experience. It feels like
For
you're
sure.
driving a different car by pushing a little button and blah, blah, blah. But I just miss the old.
I remember the first time I got into an M3. I drove an 03 M3 in stick, and it was in
Sick.
2003.
E46?
E46.
Yep.
The yellow. Snotty yellow.
Phoenix yellow.
Thank you. And there's the first time I ever saw a sport button. Now, obviously, a sport button is the most common thing in the world now in most cars. But that was the E46, at least from my experience, is really the first car I saw that had that sport button. I'll never forget.
I don't remember them having one.
Yeah, I'll never
was
forget.
Was it an M button?
I don't know if it's an M button or a sport button or whatever.
And it just
was.
kind of kicks you a little bit.
Oh man, I literally thought I had seen Jesus. I was like, I want everything to do with this.
Right.
But yeah, it's funny how we've come from that to, I'm going to grab my phone and start my car and everything's going to be completely digitally controlled. And some cars you can get in, you don't even have to drive. They'll just take you somewhere. And I think that could be a lost art. I totally understand what you're saying. And I think that you'll see people between your age and my age in the next 10, 15 years. I think you're going to see a lot of these cars from the 90s really start to climb in value even more so.
Oh, yeah. Because people are knowing people are now starting to realize what they're missing. Now, keep in mind, when I was growing up, there's so many guys on TV there's only so many guys on TV or even now on YouTube that you can see and kind of trust the opinion of, because there's so many sponsors. You need to say something good about this one, blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
For me, the top three guys were always Matt Farah, Magnus Walker, and Chris Harris. If they say a car is good, I say a car is good.
You're in, eh?
I'm always in. And especially from Chris Harris when he does his reviews on the very rare garages that he goes into. That's where you actually get to truly see and appreciate what things used to be like. And it's like, I get now what the older generation is saying, they don't make them like they used to.
Yeah, for sure. And we're now getting to that point. Only for us, it was the stuff from the 80s and 90s and maybe early 2000s, right?
Right.
Like the old Civic SIRs, the old 99J. Remember those? B-Type, a whole 160 horsepower in the Honda Coupe. There's a guy around the corner from me who has a 93 Civic hatchback.
Uh-huh.
And every time, it sounds stupid because the car is probably worth $1,000.
Yeah.
But I'll take a walk around the block. I cannot go there and not stop and have a look. Because that is like, so I was 13 in 93. So I was like dreaming of getting a license and dreaming of driving. And then in the mid 90s and then even in 2000, Hector from the first Fast and Furious has that. So like there's just something to me about the rawness of that Civic hatchback. It's like, oh man.
Yeah. Do you remember auto shows when the thing that used to be in was just how much chrome does your engine bay have versus now it's like how wide can your car get?
How much carbon fiber can be manufactured for your engine bay? But yeah, it used to be
Carbon
chrome
fiber
and
used to
blue and
Carbon fiber used to be awesome until it got overplayed. And
Yeah.
again, this is just me because a lot of people like their carbon fiber.
Oh,
not
for
trying to
sure.
insult.
And I enjoy it to a degree for sure.
I love factory carbon fiber, but when it comes to, adding it on and keeping it going and going like an Energizer bunny, it just kind of gets overwhelming for me. But
Carbon fiber can definitely fall into the law of diminishing returns. There's
Yes.
no doubt about it.
yes, but I think we are reaching an end point,
I think so.
right? So
Yeah.
do you
Covered
have
some
any
cool stuff.
Do you have any plugs or any additional plugs or anything else you'd like to say to our region? Whatever.
No, just really want to thank you for the opportunity to come on here. When I saw that you had started this up, I mean, I know very few people that are more passionate about car as a broad spectrum than you. Like there are people that are really into the detailing part of it. There are people that are really into the business part of it. There are people that are really into the race part of it. And I always found that you had such an overarching obsession that it kind of covered all
Everything.
facets. So when you
Yeah.
told me that you were doing this, I was very fascinated. So sincerely, man, I'm just really happy to be here and glad you asked me on to spend a bit of time. I hope that I hope we have the chance to do this again.
Oh, 100%.
And I hope it goes really well for you, man.
We will. Thank you. Yeah.
More than welcome. And I've already done my shallow plug for my channel, so I'm good.
Do you want to do a proper exit?
a proper exit?
A proper exit. Since you
almost
did
like-
an intro,
Since I did the intro.
you can do an exit.
Okay, fine. I'll do your exit. So I really want to thank everybody for tuning in. Again, if it was your first time, welcome. If you've been able to follow us so far, please smash that like. Make sure you subscribe. Looking forward to the next segment. And until then, enjoy all of the things that move us.
Ooh. Until then, stay under 200 on the road. That was good. I like that.
You like that?
Yeah, I like that.
Until then, enjoy the things that move us.
Okay. Well, I'm
All
going
right
to use
then.
that.
Thanks
All
so much.
Thank you.
Cheers, man.